Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Viktor Neustroev, and today we have our next workshop. Today's workshop is devoted to tactics, and the topic is geometrically invisible moves. So, good question. What does it mean? What's your opinion? What does it mean actually? What kind of tactical strikes and other types of combinations we are going to look for? What do you think? By the way, can you please let me know if the sound and video quality is good? Seems to be okay. So I'm recording this event, so there will be a recording. So if you miss something, you can then just watch the recording. But of course, my recommendations is to watch this in live. Okay. Yeah, let's double check if the sound is okay. So Bancel doesn't hear me, so probably you need to exit our Zoom conference and enter it one more time using the same link. Okay, fine, perfect, it works for you too. Yeah, so John is correct. We are looking for attacking angles that are hidden but can be exploited. That's absolutely right. Oh, by the way, it looks like today we have some new faces. Well, guys, if you want, you can introduce yourself. At least you can tell what country are you from and what's your current rating. It can be an online rating on chess.com or Lichess. Okay, while you're doing it, let me first explain what are we talking about. So, of course, in chess, geometry plays a crucial role. So, piles, ranks, open diagonals, all this is important. And very often, chess players miss or overlook geometric maneuvers. Because the board is crowded with pieces, and very often chess players, for example, doing something certain, let's say attack on the king side, are missing what's going on the other side of the board, and sometimes they just completely forget to visualize the board fully. They are just too focused on the king side plate. Okay, what are these types of geometrically invisible moves? Well, first of all, when we transfer a piece from one flank to another flank, especially if we have the attack and our opponent thinks that we can use only pieces that we have on the king side, but a move on the other side of the board can affect what is going on the king side too. Well, what else? Retreating a piece backward sometimes can be very dangerous. Also, X-ray attacks. When you attack through the enemy piece, for example. And what else? Some multifunctional linear maneuvers. When you make a move, and this move has several ideas behind it. Well, sometimes there are ugly moves, especially played by your opponent, that you can take advantage of. Well, for example, you're blocking some pieces or your opponent is blocking some pieces and you can take advantage. Or you are blocking, but this is a part of your tactical combination. And, well, of course, it's very likely that you or your opponent may blunder a tactical strike with a knight. So people blunder forks very often because, well, for our minds, forks are the most tough. Well, that's why, for example, if I have the end game, I would prefer playing blitz, I would prefer to exchange the bishop for the knight to not blunder a fork. So I would prefer to liquidate the knight. Okay, so you probably know how the computers work. The computers, I mean the engines, they are just calculating lines, choosing the best one, and then they have some criteria to evaluate the position, and based on this evaluation, they take decisions. Well, human players cannot play like that, and they have to visualize some templates. And because of that, it's very hard to believe that, for example, this weird move consists a certain tactical idea, because they just can't calculate everything. And that's why you may miss such an opportunity or even overlook your opponent playing it. That's why it does make sense to like develop such a skill. So to develop this ability for non-pattern thinking and to spot such hidden moves, it's important to do a lot of tactics, especially tactics devoted to the geometry of the board. Okay, so today I prepared 6 games that we are going to work on, and first one is between Vasily Ivanchuk and Peter Svidler. So here, Vasily is 2 pawns up, but he's under the attack. However, looks like the attack is not winning, because queen h1 is not playable. Bishop f3 and then queen h1 also doesn't work. The f3 is protected. Queen h2, well, yes, but it's just a check and the king moves to f1. What do you think black should actually play in this position? Looking forward, I can say that actually Peter Svidler, he's 11 times Russian champion of Russia, 11 times. If I'm not mistaken, he is 11 times champion. Vasily Ivanchuk is, well, he was one of the strongest, he was the strongest Ukrainian chess player during maybe 10 years. And, well, nowadays, even at such an age, well, he is over 50, he is still quite a competitive chess player. He is a legend. But Peter Svidler didn't notice it. Why? Because he was visualizing templates. So then suggest rook b8. What does rook b8 do? So rook b8 doesn't do much. You are threatening the bishop, but what for? So I think rook b8 can be paired with b7. d7, well, occasionally they want to play this move, and you cannot take on b5. So I don't think rook b8 make much sense. So queen h2 was played, king f1, and in this game, well, Peter Svidler decided that there is nothing else he can do, and he just repeated the position. Queen h3, king here, queen h2, king f1, queen h3, and then they agreed to a draw. So, of course, that was a mistake, but this check on f1 was a good idea, generally speaking. So actually, yes, Peter was correct. I mean, Peter B was correct. So Peter Svidler, well, Peter, this is how we call him using English variation of his name. He is actually Piotr. Okay, so let me check the comment that John suggested. So queen h7, king f8, which actually means queen h2, king f1, and then knight f4. Knight f4, and if queen f4, it's this move. Let me see how it works. Maybe it doesn't actually. So knight f4, do they have to take? Yes, it seems they have. Then this move. But what are you threatening? Are you going to play bishop f3 move? So, for example, how can I continue in this position? I'm debating between several lines, like queen d2, queen e3, queen d4. Queen d4 is probably not so good. d7, no, d7. I think white is actually fine, but how to play? Okay, let's say queen d4. And then you cannot take there. You can try bishop f3 with a queen g2 mate. But it seems to be okay. So I have to take. Rook takes. What then? d7. There is no checkmate. No checkmate. So queen h3, just a check. d7 or what? Or just rook e7. Rook e7. Why rook e7? Because it provides the king with extra square. Because queen g3 this time means that I can play d7 and then promote. So queen h3, king g1. Okay, so it seems white is still winning. Rook d6 then? When rook d6? So in this position, rook d6, no, rook d6 shouldn't work because there is a check. And after king h7, there is another check. And then you lose on f3. And after you lose on f3, I'm covering all the required squares. So, well, of course, if I take, it's checkmate on f2. But it seems to be okay. So, okay, knight f4 is interesting. But, so actually, the idea is so simple. It's based on the checkmate that can be delivered to this king because the king doesn't have an escape square on e2. So in this position, your task is to find a proper move which guarantees a winning position for black. It's either checkmate or extra material. Let's try once again. Who can guess? Okay, let me help you. So this knight is overloaded because it has to defend h1 square. Otherwise, queen h1 is checkmate. Yeah, rook. Well, rook h6, probably you mean rook h5. Rook h5, that's right. This is how Peter Svidler could win the game. How? Well, if the queen moves, well, first of all, if knight takes, it's checkmate in one. If the queen takes, then bishop takes, and white loses material. If they play something else, like move their queen away, then just rook takes b5. How can they play? So, well, queen e4, for example, queen e4, then rook b5, and black is winning. Black has a piece to well, to compensate 2 pawns, which is definitely enough, especially having in mind that you have a significant advantage and there are threats of bishop h3 and rook b2. So this rook h5 move could allow Peter Svidler to win the game, but he missed it. Can you imagine it? A grandmaster missing such a simple tactical strike. But the problem is his mindset. He is just very familiar with these templates like this. This is a checkmate, but bishop f3 is not playable. So he just repeated. But rook h5, noticing that the knight is overloaded, and because of that, the queen gets extra idea. Well, extra tactical strike with queen h1, which is a checkmate. This is what he missed. So f5 also doesn't work in this position. Why? Well, because of rook f5, and still it's hanging. So queen e4, let's say attacking this guy. Okay, fine, it shouldn't be a big issue. We can take the bishop, but let's not rush and deliver a check first. King goes to 2, and now we can take the bishop. However, I'm not sure if this is the best way. Maybe we should include knight f4 check. What do you think? Okay, let me just take there. And if you think rook h1 is a good move and traps the queen, no, it's not. So this, and then the queen takes there. And after this move, I would even do this and capture on h1. Well, or maybe take on f2. I didn't. Well, maybe take on f2 because it's still poisoned. Oh, yeah. Queen after... Oh, queen f2 is made. Good point. So that's why it should be queen... Oh, no, it cannot be queen d4. Okay. So queen f5 after... Where is a possible draw? Because it seems like a loss. Well, queen f5. So bishop takes. Bishop takes. Knight takes. I don't think it is a draw. So, for example, if I play knight f4 move, how do you defend the position? Because my next move is this. Or this. Rook e8 fails. Knight e7 isn't promising. Rook g3 is, but then queen h1, rook g1, and queen h3. Rook blocks, and then it is a checkmate. So no, it was over after rook h5, but he missed such a move. Okay, let's take a look at our other example. This is the game between famous Arthur Yusupov and Viktor Kortschnoj. Actually, they both are famous. Arthur Yusupov is mainly famous because of his coaching activity. He is author of many helpful books and methodologies that allows chess players to progress. Let's take a look at this position. It's black to move. So what black should do? They definitely see that c6 is vulnerable, but at the same time, there is a complex of light squares weakened, and they decided to play bishop f4 move, aiming to play queen f5, queen f3. So they think that they can sacrifice the pawn and then just continue with these moves and then threaten checkmate on h1. So what do you think? Does it work? Bishop g2 defends well. Well, bishop g2, let's say. I think it doesn't defend so well. So I think that, first of all, there is this move. Then h3 and queen f5 or queen g4. Queen g4 is better, I think. Queen g4, not f5. Then threatening with queen f3. So there it's still possible to defend the position. But let's decide if there is a better move. Maybe we first play queen f5. We reinforce a pin. So capturing there is a blunder. No, how is it a blunder? Okay, so it is a blunder like that. So now rook c8 and bishop c2. They take, but look at the position. Here, black has material advantage. They have queen and two bishops versus two rooks and a bishop. So actually, almost a bishop up. Bishop g2, queen f5. Maybe they take, but if they take, then what? I want to take with a pawn, actually. I want to take with a pawn, and in case of this, it's the same, and the queen is hanging. And then once the queen moves, take, and black is a piece up. So that's why the knight has to move. If the knight moves to f4, we take that knight, and then we are trying to initiate the attack. Knight c5 is the best move, I agree. So knight c5 and then h3 with queen f3 idea. What's your opinion regarding it? Or the second option is just to start with h takes g3. So h takes g3, h takes g3, queen d5. And it's playable. Yeah, queen d1 defense, so that's why I rejected queen f3 lion. Well, bishop g2 allows white to defend, but white wants to win. Can white win here? Knight c5. Well, when in which position knight c5? Ah, you mean knight c5 after this. Queen e5, bishop f4, d takes e4, knight c5 here. Well, that's right. Ah, in this exact position, knight c5. What do you mean? Ah, attacking the, but they take on c5 and you have your queen hanging. What's the point? Queen e2 now. Well, it's a good move, but you don't win with such a move. So what do you think? Okay. Actually, here black miscalculated or just overlooked the geometry. Yeah, white wins because they can take on c6. But what about queen f5? With queen f3. Do we now have to play this move? No, we cannot. There is a pin. How else can we defend? Bringing the queen to d1? Maybe. Not so sure about this move, actually. So what about bringing the queen to d1? It seems to work. So queen d1, h takes g3, h takes g3, then maybe queen h7, bishop g... Well, yeah, queen h7, actually. Because if bishop g2, I can trade there. Oh, the d6 is hanging, so there is... Well, it's quite complicated, and I think it's approximately equal. f4 is a possibility. I mean, in this position, f4... I'm not sure about f4, because rook c6 can be played. Bishop d3? No. Oh, f4 is playable. Rook c d8, and they just continue the attack, something like that. But white is winning because of the geometry. So look at this combination. So queen f5 and queen h1. And there is no way to defend once the queen is on f3. There you cannot defend both squares simultaneously. What you can do is you can liquidate one of the enemy pieces that does such an attack. So either the queen or that bishop on e4. Or you can counterattack the enemy king. And actually you can do so. Rook c8, look at this move. If rook takes rook, you trade the queens and you win a pawn, and also a rook actually. So it's completely winning. You won a pawn and then you win a rook. So that's why black here wanted to play queen e3, and this is what they did, having in mind that they win the game with queen h1, no defense. Well, but there is rook e8, and this is a check. So king goes to h7, and it seems there is no way to save the game, but there is sacrificing exchange. Well, you can sacrifice exchange, especially if you won two rooks before, and then it's over. This is what Kortschnoj overlooked. Why? Because such a linear maneuver wasn't so transparent. The rook captures on c6, then on c8, then on e8, and then liquidates the bishop. It's very easy to blunder because it seems that instead of doing these actions, white should be looking for some defense. But instead, there is a counterattack, and this counterattack is based on long moves, like with a rook through the almost the whole file. Well, the rook is doing a kind of a rectangle. Well, this is where he resigned. Easy to blunder, right? Well, could he play better? Actually not, because after this, queen f5 in this position, then this, and after king h7, it's possible to defend at least with knight e1. If, let's say, Queen e5, rook c8, maybe in this position they play something else. But what's something else? So if rook takes, there is a queen straight. That's it. This is how the game was over. Okay, let's continue with the next example. Okay, so here white played d5, and it seems that the move is actually okay. What else white can do in this position? So pushing the pawn there and then threatening to promote the d pawn, this is what they should be trying to do. And d takes e5 would lead to d6. And then d7. For example, if here you decide to play this move, you can get into trouble. How can they play? Well, rook e7 is one option, and this pawn becomes so dangerous. And yeah, rook e7 seems to be the best move. Maybe you first may play this intermediate move, bishop c4, but it's mainly rook e7. This is what white was relying on, and that's why he played this move. Black realized that capturing on e5 isn't so promising, and instead they found a geometrical tactical motive based on the enemy king's weakness. Can you find it too? It was Rustam Kasimdzhanov playing against Vasilin Topalov. So if you remember, Rustam Kasimdzhanov was a world champion, according to the FIDE version. Okay, so you're looking for direct tactics. Well, your solutions are knight takes e5, f takes e5, rook takes e5. So sacrificing the knight, but what for? Well, let's play this move and double check it. So this, and you aim to chase the queen away and capture on d3, I think, right? How do they play? Well, they can play this move. The pawn is poisoned anyway, so I play this move not to defend it. And then what? So it's bishop c3 coming. With rook g7 coming. Oh, actually. Yeah, let me try this. Take, bishop c3. So I win material back. And this is how I simplify. Maybe you can try this move. Then I have to take. But it still seems to be a winning position for white. They are piece up. Or maybe let's just move the queen. So it doesn't look good. Bishop e5 instead. Okay, and after pawn takes, we play rook e5. Okay, so let me see. And threatening the light square bishop. Good point. I think it's better than knight e5, but again, what did you prepare for this move? It seems that white is completely fine. Okay, Bartholomew suggests knight h2. Can you please specify why knight h2 is a good move? What if they just simply take with the king? So you are thinking queen g3. In which condition you can play queen g3? No, there is a bishop here. After c4. Yes. So together you guys actually found this nice combination. There is geometry. So the knight sacrifice, which actually gains the tempo and exposes the king's position. So that's why this knight should be captured. And then c4. And after bishop takes c4, it's definitely queen g3. This is what happened in the game. So the king moves. He moved actually there. And after knight g4, he had to sacrifice the queen. The game was over. But even if he moves the king to g1, it doesn't work. There is still knight g4, rook e1, and the checkmate on h1. So the queen should be sacrificed on g4 after queen g3, knight g4 anyway. So bishop c4 was played. Actually, because the knight was sacrificed, here white could sacrifice the bishop too. They could play bishop c3. So let's say knight g4, king goes to h3, c takes d3, queen takes d3, and this position is quite complex. White also has this idea. Well, it doesn't work immediately, but such an idea exists. So why doesn't it work immediately? So like that, this, threatening with a fork because of this. But then queen takes, knight takes, and rook e3. This, yeah, rook e3 check, king goes to h4, this, and d7 seems to work, right? Funny. Knight e3, right? So if d8, then knight g2, king goes to g5, and rook g3 is checkmate. Rook f3 in between. Yeah, I will talk about it. But I may not promote, I may play something else like g3 right away. And if so, the pawn is promoted. There is also rook f3 in this position. Yeah, okay, so well, e takes d6, and then, well, rook c3 was correct. So in this position, it seems just this move is enough, because how does he defend? If this move, then a6, and then I win the pawn on d6, and then it becomes equal. h4 is lost, but it looks like d5 is a weakness, so it's likely to end in a draw. So that was the best way to play for white. That was the best way. But bishop c4 was played, and he blundered this long maneuver. So this is what I was talking about in the beginning. When people blunder move from when the piece goes from one side to the other side. So these long moves, because they think that the queen only plays on the queen side. But such pieces like rooks, bishops, and queens can join the place of action really quick, if only the position is open. So because of their long reach, they can participate in the place of action, which is on the other side of the board. Okay, fine, let's continue. We have several more examples today. Oh, this is a nice example. The game between, well, it's not a strong player, Jonathan Levitt, I don't know who is it, against Jonathan Speelman. Well, Speelman is quite famous. For the queen, black has what? A rook and knight. For the queen and pawn, they have rook and knight. But here, black is attacking. What do you think black should do to continue their attack? Jonathan Speelman, yes, but who is Jonathan Levitt? Okay, thanks. I didn't know that. Anyway, black has a strong attack. How they should continue? What do you think? What do you think about, knight c4? What does knight c4 threaten? Knight c4 threatens b2, but let me see if it works. So, for example, you play knight c4, I can take on g7, can I? It seems to work, because if I take there, how do you continue? If you take with a knight, at least I have queen c7. King goes that way, and bishop g2, which wins the game. Well, I also have this idea, which passes the game to the endgame, which seems to be winning because I'm a pawn up. But here, not everything is so clear. There is this move, there is a check, so then h4. So the endgame is not clear, but simple bishop g2 wins the game. No, well, rook d5, then just take on d5, take on b2. If you decide to take on b2 with a rook, which makes more sense, then what about this? Check on d1? No. Just take on c4, but you lose this rook. Knight c4 looks like doesn't have an idea behind. So knight d3 seems a better move if you want to play that way. Attacking the rook and the pawn, but maybe the pawn is not so important. Okay, rook b1. Knight b2, rook b2. It doesn't seem to be like any problem. Rook b2, still knight b2. So looks like it's not a big issue. Knight e5 then. Well, knight e5, having in mind the idea of bishop d3. Well, I just take on g7, why not? Looks like knight d3 is not enough. Knight c5, threatening knight b3. Okay, let's talk about this. So this knight c5 covering this. So knight b3 is a check, then king goes to a2, and probably you mean to play this move. Yeah, some accurate play is required. Well, let's just trade the bishops. What do you think? Trading the bishops doesn't allow you to play bishop c4 anymore. Should be okay. At least white saves the game. But rook d1 works in which position? In that position. So knight d3, rook b1, knight c5, bishop f1, rook d1. No. Take. So you take, I take. Bishop f1. No, it doesn't work. So knight c5, bishop here. So rook d1. No. Take, you mean take. Take. This. Take. I don't care. Even if the knight was on b3, it's not mate. The knight is hanging. Okay, fine. So looks like it doesn't work. Neither knight c4 nor knight d3. Well, knight d3, in my opinion, was quite promising, but it doesn't lead to a win. But black wants to win, and he makes this move, which is actually a mistake. In response to this move, white makes a mistake. But what black is missing by playing bishop here? Well, what's the idea of this move? Rook d1, obviously, to trade the rooks and to bring the second rook, because a bishop covers the a2 square, the king cannot escape. And it can be even bishop b3 played to block the pawn and to make the king's position more vulnerable. What do you think about bishop c4? Why it's such a wrong move? Let me show you what happened in the game before we continue with detailed analysis. So b3, because, well, rook d1 becomes a threat, capturing then and then bringing here. So that's why they played b3, getting another escape square. But bishop takes b3, queen takes g7, knight c4, covering b2. And now it seems that rook a2, king b1, knight d2 is a mating threat. That's why they had to sacrifice here, and after bishop c4, the game was over. There is nothing they can do to stop a ladder mate with rook a1. So why did they play bishop g4 actually? Well, it stops rook d1 because rook d1, rook d2, rook c1 seems like almost a checkmate. Well, it is a checkmate, let me show you. So for example, I play a random move, let's say I take there, rook d1, king b2, rook there, king c3, rook. Oh, I cannot play such a move. Okay. Looks like still this. No, this is a blunder. Okay, then check, then this checkmate. So bishop g4 stops stops d1. So rook a2 and rook d1 is checkmate. So that's why they played such a move. But after rook e8, there is nothing they can do to cover the e1 square, and this is where they resign. There is no even checks. So instead of b3, there was not only the way to save the game, there was a way to win the game by white. What do you think they missed? Okay, queen b1 and b3 after. Okay, so I like queen b1 as a defensive move, but then bishop b3 and now rook d1 becomes a problem. So they take and bring the second rook, and then you are down material. You can try to stop it with no, not bishop g4. So maybe this time you can somehow cover this square. Okay, queen e4 with possible bishop g2 threat. Okay, queen e4 with bishop g2 and queen e1. Okay, and well, everything is defended, so they can start playing this move, and bishop g2 is too late. Okay, bishop f5 in this position, and then c2. How is it possible? So still this. Ah, okay, so I see what you mean. So take, and then you can block. But how do you deal with this move? So you can deliver a check. King goes that way. So then queen g7, but he escapes, and you cannot escape. So, well, it's possible to play for a draw in this position after queen f6, I think. Okay, maybe instead, yeah, bishop f5 was a good solution. My congratulations, you found one of the possible defenses. After queen b1. So queen b1, bishop b3, then bishop f5. This is your solution. Okay. Well, just knight d3 maybe. Attacking b2, I want to win the queen. I'm also taking the rook. And once the rook moves away, I can play this move. So the rook has to move to somewhere here. Well, let's say to g1 to not fall under a strike. But then rook b2 seems like a problem, because then it follows by rook a2. Okay, no, bishop f1 should be played first, and that was actually a clever decision. Another clever decision was f4. How does f4 works? Well, first of all, it seems that black is completely winning. Why? So they play rook d1, they are threatening to take, and the game is all over. But no. Then there is queen b1, and it's not the only solution. How does it work? So, for example, bishop b3, f takes e5, rook takes c1, queen takes c1, rook d1, but who cares? We are a pawn up, and this endgame should be winning. Moreover, instead of doing queen b1, there is also queen c2, after which even bishop b3 doesn't make sense. Because if bishop b3 is played, it's not a blunder, it's a sacrifice, but it blunders queen c7, after which it's possible to play this move. And how to block? With bishop d5, it's queen d8. Well, if rook d5, if this rook to d5, it's still queen d8. So this rook, but then queen c8 mate. So bishop g2 is actually a winning move. So queen c2 was even better. I think the game would continue like that and still pass to the same endgame. And king b1. Okay, so what did he miss? He missed this long maneuver, this long diagonal maneuver. when he calculated this line. But even white overlooked such an option. And then after b3, he lost the game. Like that. Okay, those of you who joined us recently, today we are talking about geometrically invisible moves. What kind of moves these moves are? These are either long moves, usually when a piece is located on the other side of the board, and we are focused on the place of action located on the queen side, for example, and the move on the king side affects what's going on the queen side. Or it can be some invisible maneuvers with the knight, so it can be, well, mainly it's about a move with a long reach piece, such as a bishop, queen, or rook. Let's continue. We have two more examples, so let's continue. Let's take a look at this example. So black has an attack, but at the same time, the black's position can be vulnerable too. For example, if they lose a pawn on f6, how to attack? Because then either the knight or the rook has to stay there, and well, what can be done? So if they don't unpin, there is no attack on g2. So there is only queen into the attack, but this rook is enough to stop it. Well, what do you think white should play in this position? Just try to make the move that you would play. There is nothing wrong in this position at the moment. There can be problems in future, but now you are welcome to play almost any move you want. However, be accurate and don't miss potential attacking opportunities of your opponent. So, okay, Carlos decides to solve the problem radically by capturing on e6. So if there is no knight, we are unlikely to blunder a fork. Well, if you are in a time trouble, I think it's a good practical decision. So, but then f takes e6 and they improve their pawn structure. I think it's beneficial for them. But again, there is nothing wrong. You just lose your potential advantage that you can obtain, but generally it's fine. So queen c3, yeah, queen c3 is a possible move. I like this move, and the key idea is that the queen there attacks f6, and the most important thing is that it doesn't fall under a knight's attack. What do I mean by saying a knight's attack? So in the game, instead of this move, it was played queen e3. And what's your opinion regarding this move? Why it's marked as a blunder? It looks natural, right? The queen goes to the center, protects f3, protects some crucial squares. So knight d4 is still possible, but looks like knight d4 doesn't threaten with anything. And rook d4 is a blunder because once the bishop is liquidated, once the knight is liquidated, the rook is hanging on d4. So what's wrong with such a queen move? It was Alexander Morozevich, so one of top players in Russia. Nowadays, he's retired. He doesn't play chess seriously anymore, but actually he plays Go professionally. Okay, so rook g4, nice maneuver. So Go is tougher than chess. Maybe. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely tougher than chess. More rules, more features. However, it's mainly popular in China. Okay, Rook G4 is a nice idea, but what are you missing with Rook G4 is what are you missing? That they can play, well, bishop e6 fails. Well, f takes e6, and you cannot take with the queen because of a discovered attack. Rook G4 is a nice move, actually. But what if they now play queen c3, after which you have several pieces hanging? Maybe there is something else they can do. No, I like queen c3 this time. Well, you can just take, and then what rook g4 is doing. So let me just win a pawn. What did you achieve with such a move? Can you play that way? Yes, sure you can. But okay, let me just play maybe queen here. Do you want to win the game with rook g2? Well, rook g1, no. Queen g2, no. So rook g2, after trading the rooks, there is a checkmate. But it fails again because you can just play this move. And either the rook retreats or you have to play with this rook. And if you play with this rook, so what can be done? Well, at least there can be repetition. Or there can be like check here, let's say queen f4, defending h2, which also looks fine. So that's why I think rook g4 looks interesting based on this pin, but isn't so effective. Okay, rook g7 and then rook g2. Alan, you are almost correct. Your idea is good, but your move that you suggested is a mistake. So if you find why it's a mistake, you will find a better move. I will explain it a little later. Let's talk about rook g7 first. So rook g7, rook g7. Okay, what may happen after that? So it protects the pawn on e7. There is no bishop e6 anymore. Well, I don't think it's a problem, actually. I can still continue with queen e7, for example. Then let's say this move. Okay, fine. So queen e7. And if you play rook g2, it's still the same story with queen f6. Looks like it's not sufficient. So Alan suggested... okay, so Brian suggested rook d4. Well, rook d4, bishop takes, then your rook is vulnerable. Or maybe you want to make a tempo... Oh, you cannot make a tempo move because your queen is hanging too. Okay, so knight d4 is suggested by Alan. And why does it fail? It fails because there is this move. The whole concept is based on the ability of this knight to move to g3. But this time, unfortunately, there is this problem. So if rook g7, you blunder the rook, and if knight g7, then what did you achieve with this knight? So for example, they can continue with bishop f7. But if you instead play knight g7, then you can defend your position against queen e7, because now, if such a move is played, you have knight h5, which does defend and which does create a threat. So they blunder it knight g7, which allows you to play knight f5 with a tempo and then knight g3, winning the game. Or allows you to play knight h5 and then knight g3. And the feature of knight h5 is that it defends f6. For example, if queen c3 was played, it's too late to play such a move because queen f6 creates a pin. It's even too late to play knight d4 because it doesn't achieve anything. So how can I play? Can I take on f7? It seems it's quite possible because this is a blunder. This blunder is on f6, I mean. So queen e3 and it's knight g7. How the game continued? Rook g1, knight f5, attacking the queen, where the queen should go. So on the one hand, the queen can go to f4. Well, in the game, it was played queen e1. So I think that not this move because of the back rank. Maybe not. Maybe not only because of the back rank. So what do you think? Yeah, rook g1 with rook d1 ideas. But wait a sec. If you do this and then you play rook d1, there is a bishop also. It's not attacking the queen, but how do you continue your attack then? That's why it should be rook g8 and the king escapes. And this time knight g3 works, and then you have to play discovered attack. It can be knight e2, which wins the queen. Yeah, well, probably because of knight e2, queen f4 wasn't played. Okay, the second option is to bring the queen to e1. That's what happened in the game. So rook g1. Well, I think this move works too, after which at least they lose exchange. And it should be a winning position, according to what I see. Let's see. Queen e7, let's say it's rook d1. But rook g1. If queen takes, it's the same story. Rook g8 and so on. Knight goes there. So if this move, queen f3. No. Well, not only queen f3. There is a better way to play. So you can take, and finally fork on e3. But if there is no fork, then queen f3 also looks good. I'm sure you can exploit this pin, because how do they get rid of? And you have knight e3 and knight h4 both. Okay, king g1. Rook g8, king h1. Knight g3, king g1. But how to play then? Should we play knight e2 and then rook g1 to win a queen and then play the endgame with queen versus rook and bishop? Or we have a better solution? What comes to your mind? Oh, there is knight e4 actually. Knight e4 allows you to win exchange. So knight e4. So they move, you take, and then you win exchange. And then I think, well, this move means b3. So probably this. And it should be winning position. But there can be a better move. How about knight e2? Okay, knight e2 aims to play this move, rook g1. So you want to win a queen for these two pieces, rook and knight. I think it's playable, but can't you find a better solution here? So maybe Brian can, because of his attacking abilities. Alan, can you please remind me what's your rating is? Oh, only 1600. Well, it seems that you should be stronger than 16, at least 19. 3 years ago. So yeah, probably you're better than 16. Okay, Zamfir found it. John, so knight f4. Can you specify in which position Brian wants to play knight f4? Knight e2, king g1, and then knight f4. But what for? Here through h5. Okay, and what did you achieve with this move? So let's say, well, rook g2, but who cares? So let's say they continue with queen e7, for example. Because, rook g2. Okay, rook g2 this time, queen f8. And you lose the game. Well, not sure if you lose the game, but it's definitely unfavorable. No, knight f4 doesn't work, but look at knight f1 move, how it works. So it is a check, the king goes there, of course, and knight h2. So finally exposing the king. So just any knight move like knight f3 and the game is over. Is there a possibility to chase the queen away? No. Take. Even if this move was possible, we could just retreat with the queen or play knight g4 move. Now, let's say it's possible. Knight g4 check, king goes there, then for example this move, and then we continue the attack, either take there or bring our rook to the attack. So king, well, it's a check, so king takes, and this king goes there, checkmate, king goes here, then queen e6. Even if it was possible, but it's not possible. So after knight h2, the only way to continue is this, and it's over, queen f3. So the king cannot move, it's cut off, and it's blocked by his own rook. So rook g2, queen g2, and this is the end. Yeah, so you're absolutely right about knight f1. Knight f1 with the idea to get the king exposed. Okay, so this time it was, well, weird queen e3 move, which actually looks logical and can be played, especially if you're low on time. But look at this maneuver, so either this way or the other way. And the knight is able to defend the main weakness of the position, which is the pawn on f6. And once black successfully solves this problem with f6, they have a winning attack. Okay, fine. There is still one more game to discuss, but before we continue with this game, let me share the screen. So first of all, these workshops are free. However, if you would like to support me, there is an option to donate. Moreover, there are two ways to donate if you want. One with PayPal, the other one with Wise. So this is the link how it works. You click the button, a new pop-up window appears. You enter the amount that you want to donate. It can be any amount. Then you click PayPal button and it redirects you to your PayPal account, and then you enter it and send money directly to my account. So this is one option. The other option is to do it through Wise, so using this link. So choose what is better for you. I would really appreciate it. Moreover, this coming Friday, June 6th, we start this course. This course, it's a course of group lessons. Improve your endgame technique. What are we going to work there? We are going to cover the end games and try to improve your ability to play these end games, because this is a very important part of the game. And what I see that, well, for example, my students and other chess players I'm following, well, you can be quite good in the middle game with an attack, but once it comes to the end game, you may choose a wrong plan. You may not take advantage of the enemy weaknesses, and you may let your opponent just capture the pawn, and even with a small advantage, you sometimes cannot convert it and win the game. So that's why passing this course will definitely help you to get better in this final stage of the game. So it's 12 weeks, 3 months. 3 months, and for this small amount, so if you scroll down, there are two options to enroll. well, it can be $49 per month, and if it consists of 4 lessons a month, then it's less than $10 per hour, which is quite affordable. What are we going to study there? So these are 12 lessons. Essential endgame principles. This is what we are going to talk about this Friday. Then we are covering pawn endgames, 2 lessons devoted to them. Rook endgames, again 2 lessons. Explaining principles and what you should be doing there. Bishop endgame, knight endgame. Then when we have a bishop versus knight or knight versus bishop, of course there will be queen endgames, especially when you have to play with a queen against a pawn, which is already is 1 square left from a queen in line. And also when you have extra pawn and queen endgame, how to convert it. And then we come to more complex endgame when we have a rook and 1 minor piece, and also some practical classes, how to defend the endgame, and how to, well, practically play for a win in a complex endgame. So this is what we are going to start what we are going to cover in this course. So if you enjoyed my 2 previous courses, then you will definitely like this one. Well, maybe it's not so exciting like a attacking course, but it's definitely vital and crucial for your overall chess strength. I'm not going to send you the link right now because right now the payment gate is not ready. So I'm going to send an email tomorrow, I think. So you tomorrow with the recording of this event, so check your email and you can enroll by clicking on that link. But we are going to start this Friday, and there is nothing that can stop me from studying these group lessons. Okay, fine. Let's continue with our topic. Okay, so rook and games take a while to learn. It took me 1 month to solve. Oh, okay, fine. I win a knight position, which is quite complicated. Okay, thanks, Brian, for sharing this Saavedra position. By the way, why is it named Saavedra? I know that there is a park and a certain area in Buenos Aires which is called Saavedra. Probably the position was first appeared in this area. It's actually quite close to me, maybe like 20 minutes walk. Fernando Saavedra, maybe, yeah. Okay, let's take a look at this position. What do you think black should be doing here? How black should attack? The king is weak. However, there is a pin here and this knight is hanging. Just delivering a check means you can quickly let them to consolidate pieces and create problems with king e2, rook d1. Oh, the link of the course will be sent on like I think tomorrow. We are almost done, but there are a few bugs that needs to be fixed with a payment gate. So you cannot enroll right now, but it will be available, I think, starting tomorrow. I hope so. Okay, so we should check queen d3 and queen d1. It's absolutely right. These are first 2 logical moves. However, then we have to consider that what to do with this pin because the knight becomes hanging. But let's try. So queen d1 forces them to play this move, after which it seems logical to, well, knight d2, no, but knight e3, yes. However, the king goes that way, and how do we continue? Well, it's actually hanging, and this guy is hanging too. That's why not everything is so clear. How you can continue? Maybe you can play queen d3 in this position. Maybe. And if so, how do they need to play? Here, you can take there with a check, but the king escapes to g3. And looks promising, but how do you continue then? They can take on b4. This guy is not hanging because, no, actually he is hanging. If queen e5, it's just queen takes queen. So not everything is so clear. Queen d1 looks good, but let's start with queen d3. Why with queen d3? Well, at least because if king g1, they are checkmated. Like that. So which tells us that they have to keep the king in the center, and then the king in the center is more vulnerable. So what do you think? How can we take advantage of that position? There is also this hidden idea. So once the king moves to a square, which allows us to fork like that or this, then we can win the queen. But it seems that we cannot reach the king with our knight here at the moment. Yeah, John, absolutely right. Rook d8. Well, Georgios is also correct. So rook d8, you are threatening to checkmate with queen d1. And what comes to your mind in this position? How they should defend the position? Is it possible to play queen e4, let's say? Or what? Rook takes knight. No, wait. Brian, you cannot play rook takes knight. It is a checkmate on d1. With rook d8, we are threatening this mate. Queen a4, knight b2. Okay, fine. Maybe knight b2 actually, because where does the queen go? But I also think that after queen a4, you can just checkmate in 2. And I think it's better because both moves are checks and we don't have to calculate anything else. Rook a1 is a possibility. Yes, rook a1 is a possibility, but then it's queen c3 and queen a1. So because you cannot go there. If you go there, it's rook d2. And then queen f1. Queen a1, sorry. So, well, what you should do is you should vacate squares for the king. And which square to vacate? The f2. If you, for example, decide to play this move, you can lose the game. Can you? Do you see how black wins here? Well, same thing happens in case of bishop h4. Oh, here even queen d1 is good. Queen d1, rook d2 wins. Right, but queen e3 wins too. And after this move, there is knight d2, which is checkmate. Well, there is also rook d1, bishop a1, rook takes bishop. It's also checkmate. So several options. That's why bishop g1. Why? Because such a move allows the king to escape to g3. So what do you think? How to continue? Can we deliver several? No. Can we deliver a check and then take on e3? Probably not. Well, queen d2 seems like a move in this position, but then capturing on a3 allows them to take. Well, if we take, they are fine. They take on b1 or b8, and we have to trade rooks. Okay, queen c5 can be a try. Okay, we will talk about it. But here, queen d1, and if king f2, they can try to capture, but this fails because the knight is lost and this rook is pinned. So in which position queen c5? So bishop g1, queen d2, this. No, there is no time. So it's black to move. Okay. King f1, queen c1 there. Okay, queen c1 there. Why queen c1? Why not queen d1? I think actually maybe there is no big difference. Maybe they both can be played. The game it was queen d1. But let's talk about queen c1. What's the difference? So he can go there, but then it's a checkmate, so he has to go to f2. And then you want to take with the queen. That's the point of queen c1. I got it. But then he escapes, and now you don't have checks because these squares are covered by the queen. You have a check there, but then the king goes further. Well, bishop f2, oh, the king. Bishop f2. I choose bishop f2. And now it seems that you have to take on h1. And if you take on h1, I take here, threatening with a checkmate and threatening to take here. And after this move, take, queen takes, take there. So queen b8, f4, b3, but bishop d4. And if b2, I take it because the back rank is weak. So white is winning here with extra bishop. Queen e5 forces the exchange of the queens. Well, here queen e5 forces the exchange of the queens, but isn't it a losing position for black? They are down exchange. So just let's say this, and then what? Knight c6, you can save it. Well, maybe it's not fully losing, but it's not winning, of course. So, okay, well, queen e3 isn't promising because it led the king to escape. But, well, queen d1 was played. King f2. Then knight e3. So this is what they missed, that it's possible to take with a knight. And they cannot take on b1, on b8, sorry. They cannot take on b8. So why they cannot take on b8? Because there is queen d2, king g3, queen d6, and rook b8. So even if the king escapes, or maybe f4, let's say the king escapes, after this move, this is not hanging. And this position is a winning position. Well, first, there is an attack. Second, there is a passed pawn. In the game, they played this move right away. And, well, it's still winning. The attack continues. How to play, for example? Well, queen d6, obviously. Queen d6, f4. Then maybe knight d5, creating a threat of taking there, supporting here and here. So it seems black is winning here. But bishop c5 is a blunder. What else can be played? Well, f4 has to be defended. Otherwise, white is in a serious trouble. So it can be defended with this move, but it seems still to be a winning position. You can even try g5 and take it. Queen g6 is a possibility too, but then king goes that way. Oops, queen c4. So that way, okay. So no, I like g5 move here. Yeah, I think g5 looks good. Fine. Okay, so the attack continues. So knight e3. What happens if they captured it? What do you think? This is what white blundered in this combination. They thought that they survived, but they missed the ability of these two pieces, these two, attack the king. So they missed this geometry. Okay, queen e1. Queen e1 allows king f4. So it's not queen e2, because queen e2 it's rook e8, and then the queen is lost. So it's king f4, and then how do you play? You cannot play rook d4, unfortunately, and that's why I don't see any promising checks. So queen d2, king g3 this time. So it looks like queen e1 is too premature. John likes queen d4, Ellen likes queen d2. So queen d4 he goes that way, and then what? Looks like we are where we started. So queen d2 chases him to e4, but how to continue the attack this time? What do you think? Because ideally, you should try something like that. But both squares are covered with the queen, and that's why it becomes impossible. However, there is a solution. Yeah, the solution is f5. That's right. The solution is f5. Well, it's not the only move. No, it seems to be the only move. There is also g5 with queen f4, but queen g5 is slow. It's f5. So what now? If the king takes, it's this, and this wins material, making the position completely winning. If not, then you take and you're still ahead. If the king goes to e5, which is the only square available, then you win the material too because of knight d7 move, and then you can take this, and it's a winning position, especially you can keep attacking the king. So, for example, king e6. Let's decide which move to play, because I want to take there, but I don't want to give up this. Let me start with this move first. Where does the king go? It's not possible to block this check. He can take. Yeah, okay, so let's play what you suggest, knight f8, and then we take then, and this is a winning position. Also, where does he go? If he goes there, it can be checkmate. If he goes that way, we can win the queen and then the rook. If he goes to e5, then what? Let's just take the rook. I'm just looking if there is a better option. Maybe knight g6 is a better option this time, because if he goes back, then oh no, it's not checkmate. No, queen d4 first. When queen d4? Before knight f8. But yeah, queen d6, but he takes on f5, and then what? Knight d7, no. Queen d6, queen, he goes that way. Oh yeah, actually this. Oh, finally this. Yeah, there is a checkmate. Once again, this, check, supported by the knight, so... Oh, yeah, and that's it, actually. So queen f4 is a checkmate. I mean, queen f4 is the best move. Direct queen f4, exactly. So there is no need to play this move. And then queen h4. So direct queen f4 means this and this. Okay, fine. Knight g6 works. And if this move, it's this. Okay, so instead of this move, queen d4 first. No, queen d4 first doesn't work. Yeah, knight f8 is a good move. So he has to take on f5. This is the only option. But then it's over after rook d5. That's it. So f5 wins the game. You just have to calculate it. This is what white missed. They missed knight a3 idea. And then the king is vulnerable. And finally, they missed a pawn move. So if queen takes there, it's rook e8. It's rook e8, so the king has no moves. They have to block, and this is a loss, because here you can continue with queen here, bishop e3. Otherwise, you take the queen for free. So bishop e3, you take, they take, and this is a winning position. After the king goes away, you can defend the knight. For example, this move, just queen b6. Then you escape. Well, this is a blunder. So queen f4, you mean, you mean queens? Well, what do you mean? This is f4 square. instead of bishop block. So this is bishop block. King f4. What else can be done? King f4. Well, king f4 is a mistake. You lose a queen for free, and that's over. That's the end. Okay, fine. So what did we figure out today? We realized that there are hidden maneuvers that even a grandmaster can blunder. So can you imagine how often such maneuvers are blundered by club players or even tournament players? Very often. And your task is to find and create them. How you can do this? Well, you should work on tactics and focus more on geometrical tactical maneuvers. So do puzzles devoted to this topic. And this is how you can get better with it, especially with knight forks. So that was my suggestion. Do you have any questions? Okay. Rook b8 instead of king e3. In which position? Rook b8. Good point. It fails because of queen d2. So queen d2, you go there, and then it's queen d6, and then rook takes on b8, and we can save the knight, so it's winning because of the pass pawn. So king h3, we take. So we have a pass pawn, and we can move the knight to a safe place. Also, the king is still in the danger. So it doesn't work. Okay, thank you for joining. Hope to see everyone on Sunday. And if you would like to join our group lessons on Friday, you're welcome. So wait for an email tomorrow. Bye-bye.